Hi, this is Dr. Mark Sell, and I'm this channel for Therapy for the Heart, and this is the 9th talk in a series of talks on what makes for a good psychotherapy session. This is talk number 9, but it's a continuation of talk number 8, and if you go to the top of the screen you can see videos there, and click that and go down to playlists, and under playlists you'll find a list what makes for a good psychotherapy session, and you'll click that and find the 8th talk. In that talk we saw how my need not to feel hate interfere with my ability to work with Jane. Dr. Spotnitz wrote about countertransference resistance, and he said the major sources of that resistance are the need for the therapist not to feel hate, the need to be liked, and the need to be right. Resolving my countertransference resistance in the 8th talk helped me to work with Jane in a different way. I was relaxed, not trying to cure her. I was not wounded by her attacks. And she responded with a feeling of being different after therapy. Quote, "Even though we are definitely separate, we are a part of a whole. That is, in fact, happy." She did not have to fight off feeling close to me, like she did with her mother, who wanted her to be one with her and could not tolerate Jane's aggression nor her separateness from her mother. Jane's mother would pull her hair when she didn't do her homework right. She would force her to eat her food and eat it all, and when she didn't, and when Jane would spit it out, then her mother would rage at her for that. As we discussed in earlier talks, it's the caretaker's inability to accept the aggression from the infant and the toddler that makes for mental illness later on. The second stalemate in treatment was related to my fears of closeness and attachment. Jane started to reveal her affection and sexual feelings toward me. I in turn started to have feelings of affection toward her, of sexual feelings, of wishing to marry her, wondering what it would be like to live with her. I also was afraid of being flooded with my feelings and some apprehension about what I would do with my feelings, whether I would act out on them or not. I was also conscious of being afraid that if I investigated her wishes, for instance, to go on a date with her, that she would be feeling that she would be stuck with me and she would be attached and never want to leave. As I found out, this was a projection on my part of my own attachment needs and fears, of never wanting to be left or never wanting to leave because of my own desertion experiences when I was deserted by my mother at an early age, around 7, 6. I was deserted before that by her unavailability, but this was a actual physical desertion for periods of time. I worked hard in my analysis so I could get a grip on my feelings and understand them, trying to keep a few steps ahead of Jane, like it's often true of people when they're in the beginning stages of therapy, or even in the middle stages or late stages, have a very difficult patient, arouses the very difficult feelings in us, and we take a lot of time in analysis and supervision trying to figure it out. My patient began to dress up all of a sudden when she came to sessions, and she looked very nice. She brought in pictures of her home, shared stories with me. When she wondered if we would go out on a date, I would ask her, "Oh, well, what would that be like? Where would we go?" Therapists often at this, when patients ask such a question, indicate that they would like to go out to the therapist. Because of their anxiety, the therapist's anxiety, they often will close down communication and say, "Well, we can't do that here." And it's not necessary. Sometimes it is, but generally it's not. To say that, patients talk about a fantasy, and they don't really want to go out. And if you ask them, if you broach the subject about going out, they would shy away from it, because there's more to this than just acting on an impulse. For them, there's more wishes that they're trying to have gratified, and they need to talk about it. One memory stands out in my mind in my work with Jane at this period. As she was telling me about a book she was reading, I found it fascinating, and I particularly loved listening to her about her talk about history and archaeology. And at that moment, as she was talking to her, she also said, I I never have a feeling that I could have an impact on you. And I said to her, well, that's very interesting, because at the moment, you were having a very profound impact on me. Later, she said she was afraid of telling me she did feel like she had an impact on me. And that came out later on when we were talking more about her fears of being close. On the cover of the book, there was an eagle poised in flight. I went out and purchased the book, and we talked about that book, the content of the book, from time to time. That was very gratifying. Eventually, this was a long analysis of maybe 5 years, and eventually Jane terminated treatment. She wrote me that she felt like saying, "Wait for me, will you marry me when I grow up?" She said it was her time for closure, her time to say goodbye. Feeling liked by you meant so much because it came from you. I didn't expect it. You have fulfilled the role of the eagle. Now, this is a reference to a fantasy that's in the actual paper you can find on my website. But this could have been also feeling that she needs to get away from me before I leave her. So it could have been a strength, both a strength and a defense. There was something special for Jane in feeling liked by me when she didn't expect it. The title of the paper where this material came from is the paper I wrote, Stalemates in Therapy and the Notion of Gratification. It is no coincidence that the paper starts with a quote from Mary McLean, "Will a wise world hand me in my outstretched hand a stone?" Jane said she was happy now. She didn't hate herself anymore for her feelings. She got a job, was with another therapist by that time, and was accepted into a fellowship program to continue with graduate work. In the beginning of treatment with me, she had a goal to finish college, and she was able to do that while she was in treatment with me during that 5-year period. Jane felt on a par with her peer group, she said. In the beginning of treatment, she never felt she could fit in. Well, how could she fit in with a relationship with her mother like that? Her mother just didn't let her fit in. She didn't mirror her. She was constantly criticizing her, feeling that she was incompetent, so therefore I became the incompetent person in all her attacks on me. At least she got that out, and she had some object to rail against because her mother wouldn't permit it at all. So now she felt she fit in, and with her peers. She wrote, "One thing you said stuck with me. You have fears of being close. That's why you're not with anyone. I kept that thought, and it helped me." Leo Stone writes about the ability for the therapist to withstand the tortuous strains of transference and countertransference feelings without giving up hope. I never gave up on Jane like other therapists did. Once Jane said to me, "I know how difficult I am and you are helping me. I need your persistence." She had an idea that how obnoxious she was being in the first phase of treatment. And she knew also that I was hanging in there with her. I was feeling incompetent myself, a lousy therapist. I thought I was doing everything wrong. And still in all, I stayed with it. I went into continued my analysis, my supervision. And so I hung in there. Other people didn't for her. In my paper, I referred to Harold Searles, who said that there comes a time for a patient to move on. The therapist has to be prepared for this, and another therapist may have to take the patient to another level. Looking back on this, I know there was a powerful unresolved transference I had, and I was not fully aware of it at the time. At the time, I was thinking about preparing this for a class that I was teaching, and I was reading the paper, and I started to break into tears because I thought of my feelings I had from my mother, which I have resolved by this time, for the most part. But I think she also had that unrequited love with me too, and so we worked on some of it. I think there was a lot left remained to be worked on, but she got a great deal out of her treatment with me, and I got a lot of gratification out of my work with her. We both learned about each other and learned from each other and gave to each other, and hated her, and she hated me, and everything worked out fine. It's okay to have all these feelings as long as you don't avoid them, as long as the therapist doesn't avoid them and you can help the patient tolerate them. So I want to thank you for listening. You see a subscribe button on the video on the top of the screen there. If you could push that. If you have a YouTube, you can. If you don't have one, you can open up an account. It's pretty easy to do. There's a like button there, so if you could indicate whether you either liked the video or disliked it. And I respond to comments that people make, so if you have an opportunity to make a comment, you can't do it unless you have a YouTube channel, but if you do have one, please comment. It's helpful to me to know how people respond to the videos. Like one Christmas, there was a person who wrote in and said that they were working on their thesis for psychology, and he said that listening to the video helped him revise his thesis. So that was very helpful for him and for me to know that. So again, make comments if you can. I will respond to them, and go back, read some of the other videos. They all are kind of interconnected in a way, starting with the first one through the 9th. And again, I want to thank you very much for being here. This is Dr. Mark Sell, signing off for Channel for the Heart. Goodbye.